want us to start right away, and I'd just like to start by saying that we've seen a lot of what you've done, beautiful stuff. We're impressed, and we really want to have you share with us some of your stories so that others can also be inspired and they can start their journeys however and wherever they are. So we are very thankful and glad that you're joining us today, Muna. Thank you for joining our series and being the third person in our series.
Thank you.
We're going to start right away, and I'll start by asking, you are on the internet. If you put your name on the Google search now, Munachimso Oji, we're going to see Munachimso Oji, but you're not on the internet. So we want to get to know you. Do you understand?
Okay. So what do you want to know? Tell me areas that you want me to focus on.
How it was for you, school, and what you studied, finished from, and everything.
Growing up, I grew up in Enugu, and I did everything in Enugu. I did primary school, nursery school, primary school, secondary school, uni. I studied law, even though I'm not practicing it. But I went to law school in Abuja. So I left Enugu I won't say that. I lived somewhere else but Enugu for the first time in 2017. So I moved to Abuja in 2017. And I did law school, graduated in 2018. I started serving in 2018. While I was serving, I started good living. So I'd say I got to a point where I had added some weight. It wasn't a lot because people keep saying, "Oh, you're so skinny," but I mean, to me, it was something, and I could see that it was possible because all my life I'll eat anything I want, and I won't add weight. You get, but then I was 22 at the time, I think, and then I was eating, and I was actually seeing it show on my body. That was scary for me. You get, so I know to other people it doesn't make sense because I mean there's no difference, but to me it showed that this healthy living thing should be a thing. Like it can happen to anybody. You can actually just keep eating and become fat one day. Do you understand? Unhealthy looking, right? So I decided, okay, let me start with what I eat. I want to eat healthier. So that was the first time I was considering anything like that in my life. I hated eating salads before then. You won't catch me drinking anything healthy or eating anything. In fact, you won't catch me. Once it's green, I don't want it. Green I am, never. So I just didn't like things like that because to me, they weren't tasty. So why should I bother myself with them, chickens? And I would call them grass all the time. My sister makes fun of me now. So she keeps saying, so how are you now the one making grass for people? So I'll call them grass all the time. But it got to a point where it was obvious that there needed to be a change in my lifestyle, right? And I didn't know where to start from because obviously I hadn't been doing anything like that prior to that time. So I had to figure it out. And I knew that I didn't want it to be boring. I didn't want it to be bland, basically. So I started doing more research on interesting things to eat, like how to make food interesting, how to make healthier foods interesting and all of that. And I remember going to one place in Abuja and they served me salad. They only make salad. So my friend realized that was what I was doing, and she said she was going to take me to somewhere. She took me to that place, and it's a salad bar. And the salads were so good, so tasty. And I think that was my inspiration, if I'm being honest, because it's not just you seeing it on YouTube and seeing other people do it on YouTube. You're seeing someone doing it in Nigeria and it's working. Do you get? Exactly. So I put all that my research to use. I started making for myself and taking it to work. Then the people at my office started ordering, and I was making it for them. I remember I got to a point where I couldn't even make more than 10 because they won't let you bring in food from outside the bank at the time. I was serving at the bank, and they won't let you bring in food from outside the bank at the time. So I wasn't able to bring in more than 10 plates at the time. And every day I had more than 10 orders. So when I get there, then people now start saying, oh, I ordered first. I was me that you get. So obviously there was a lot of demand for the salad. And I didn't I became a businesswoman all of a sudden. I don't, everything happened so quickly. Do you get? So obviously it was a viable and lucrative business. And I remember when I was leaving, people telling me, oh, make sure you make this a thing. Like, we think there's some. But unfortunately, when I left, I went for MBGN straight from this. Even do my passing out. So I did my clearance, and from there I went straight to MBGN. I won't say unfortunately, but it's just happenstance. When I got there, we did all of that. MBGN is the most beautiful girl in Nigeria. It's a pageant competition, and the first two people go for Miss World and Miss Universe, which is like the most prestigious pageant platforms in the world. So I went for that, and I didn't win. I was top 15. I came back home to Enugu to try and figure out what next, because I didn't want to go back to Abuja at the time, and my parents wanted me to come back home. They wanted me to practice law and everything. I took some time, tried to figure out what I wanted to go back to good living. It just seemed like a lot at the time. By 2020, because that was end of 2019, I finished with MBGN in November. By 2020, my parents were convinced that I was supposed to go and start practicing law. So I practiced law for all of 2020, but resigned at the end of 2020 because I wanted to go back to good living. Beginning of 2021, I started good living again, and here we are.
Okay, beautiful. I see how your first experiences and how you lived translated into what you're currently doing now. And so I would like to ask again, what exactly, because I wanted to ask when your entrepreneurial journey started, but obviously it started from when you went to a restaurant. You know how people get inspiration from different, and yours was at a salad. So did you ever think you were going to use what you studied in school, law, or you just felt that yes, your calling is to make salads for people, or leaves as you call them?
No, definitely. Well, if my parents listen to this thing and I say definitely not, they'll be heartbroken. But the truth of the matter is this: I always knew I was not going to practice law. In fact, I knew from second year, and I tried to change to economics. But my mother said God told her that I must finish law, that I'm supposed to be a lawyer. And who am I to go against God's wish? So I finished studying law. But at that point, I already knew that I wasn't very passionate about it. In fact, I wasn't passionate at all. I just did what I had to do, and I graduated, right? But another thing is, I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that you shouldn't practice what you studied in school, or it's not good to practice what you studied in school. The truth is, when you started with one course, it's usually better to finish it, because you don't really know. Like, it's not at that point that you're in school that you're going to figure out what your journey is, or what your purpose is, any of those things. So even if you're saying you're switching to something else, you just keep switching, because life is a journey. Do you get? So just stay in that place, finish that one, and if as you grow, it becomes clearer, then you can do something else in your master's, you can do a second degree, so don't use it as an excuse to decide that you're going to drop out of school, or you're not going to finish with your first. Confused. Just nobody knows it all at that point, especially at that point. Even at 40 or 50, people are still trying to find their footing. But at that point, especially, nobody knows what they're supposed to do. You get? So wherever you are, just make the best of it. That's what I think. And fortunately, I had my parents grounding me. So at that point, I finished law. I did what I had to do. And when I was done, that was now time to figure myself out. And I'm still figuring myself out. But with good living, it just stuck. Like, when I started it, I felt like this is something that I'm supposed to do. I'm now at a place where I feel like what I'm supposed to do is wellness, emotional and mental well-being, and all those kind of things. And even that area and that part is still unfolding. Do you get? I'm still figuring out what it is I want to do there. And I see how, with the skill sets I had naturally and the ones that I've built over time, I see how that area can turn out well and can work out for me. Do you get? But then this year alone, I've gone through so many things, so many changes, and so many obstacles and challenges that I'm now realizing that at every point, give yourself to the will of God, and and believe that things will unfold as they should. Do you understand? We say these things, but I doubt that we actually believe it. Do you get? So do your best and believe that things will unfold as they should. Do you understand? And whatever you're doing, give it your best. Be your best self. Show up. Do you get? Yeah, so I think that's it.
You spoke about some qualities that you had that you learned from. So I wanted to ask, what qualities did you learn from MBGN? What qualities did you learn from? Did any of those things you learned from law school translate into good living right now?
Well, the thing about law and the good thing about law, and particularly for me, right, is that you cannot not use it, right? So it's only an advantage if you study law, right? So now I have to register businesses all the time. Like, the truth is, for people that want to be entrepreneurs, they never do one thing. They're always coming up with ideas and things to do and trying this and trying that before something sticks. Do you get? So I'm always having to register businesses. I'm always having to do business names and trademarks and all those kind of things. And sometimes even in dealing with people, there's some things somebody will present to me. I just know this is crap. Do you get? Like, this can't work. This is not applicable. Do you understand? And anytime I'm confused, if law does nothing for you, it gives you a very solid network. If you guys graduate and you know your class and you know people that went to class with you, half of those people will be well placed at the end of the day. Do you understand? Aside being well placed, they are very knowledgeable. Do you get? So at every point, because I might not be the smartest person, but even if I'm confused, even if I don't know anything, I have at least 10 close friends. Let's not even talk about like classmates. I have at least 10 close friends I can call and ask almost anything that I want to know. Do you get? So even if that's all I can remember now, that's enough like advantage from studying law. Then from MBGN, for instance, there's definitely a lot of things that I learned from there. Number one is public speaking, right? So before, I knew that I could speak and I could write, but then because I wasn't put in a position to speak to people all the time, I hadn't honed that skill, right? So, but with MBGN and pageantry, I had to, because all you do there is speak. You might not get to speak on the final day, but you prepare to speak, because you can't be going there thinking that you will not get to top 5. And once you get to top 5, you have to speak, right? So you're always, even before then, you guys get exposed to like people and faces that are like well-placed people, right? And you guys have to speak to these people all the time. Do you understand? So you have to be eloquent. You have to be well-spoken. I think that pageantry did that for me. And then somehow going for that made me get over my fears, some of my fears, like reaching out to people, not being afraid to stand out in certain situations. I've always been reserved. I'm still reserved, but now I'm no longer afraid that I might be put in a situation where I have to speak for myself, or I have to talk to somebody, or I have to stand out, or any of those kind of things. If anything, I put myself in those situations. Do you understand? Because that's what it's about. That's what life is about, and that's what pageantry was for me. I don't know what it was for different people, but that's what it represented for me. Do you get? Putting myself out there. So I try to do that more and more these days.
So when you started Good Living, startups are always faced with a bit of challenge and everything. What were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Well, the very first one will have to be stability. Till now, we're still struggling with that because I've been moving around a lot. I've told you how I moved from Enugu to Abuja, from Abuja to MBGN, from MBGN back to Enugu. Because I haven't been one place, and obviously if you're starting in your 20s, I don't know about other people, it was also a time for me to because I'm doing a lot of things. You're going to law school, you're going for NYC, you start a job, you go for MBGN. For me, my life was never in one place, right? So my 20s was my time of figuring myself out, so I was always on the move, kind of. Right? And very soon I'll have to go for masters as well. I even delayed my masters because I wanted to take time, do my business well and all of that, and figure out what exactly it is I want to study. So it's obvious that I've been moving around and I still have to be moving around in the course of figuring myself out. That's what my own journey has been like, right? So I've obviously struggled with stability for my business because I want to start it in one place and keep it in that place. And if I'm moving to another place, I want it to be a different branch. I don't want to have to close it up when I move and start somewhere else. Do you get? So I'm really working on that in Enugu. And I think very soon, like I'll have a breakthrough and you guys will see it when it happens.
Yeah, we expect that. What else do you have? What is the trajectory? What do you think is the trajectory for Good Living? 2 years, 5 years? Where do you think, where do you want Good Living to be?
Well, that's a loaded question. But if I'm being honest, I see Good Living as a means to an end, right? So like I told you, I'm starting to think that my purpose revolves around emotional wellness and well-being. So obviously, I want to have a wellness place at the end of the day at some point. So we're starting with food, which is Good Living, right? And hopefully, Good Living starts to do well, move to different places. I want it to become a go-to place. Like in every city you go to, you're like, oh, if I can go to the Good Living here, I'm sure I'll get good food, right? So I want it to be known to supply trusted food at all times in almost all the cities in Nigeria, right? But at the same time, I want it to be part of the wellness brand. So I want us to be known as a wellness brand. So I want us to do other parts of wellness, like emotional wellness, physical wellness, like, and all. Do you understand my point? So that's just one part of it. But I try to do them differently, if that makes sense. I try to do them together and differently, if that makes sense. So Good Living stands on its own and stands well as a food business, even though it's part of the like big and general plan. You understand? So that if something happens to one, it doesn't have to affect Good Living. So even though it's part of a big plan, I want Good Living to be a business and to be well known on its own first. Do you understand? Before it joins the greater plan. If that makes sense.
So as an entrepreneur, I know there are other fellow entrepreneurs out there that they have issues with starting out. Because most times I hear once you start, I think that's all you need basically sometimes, and then the rest of everything will fall into place. But as an entrepreneur, an experienced person, you've been doing Good Living for how many years now? 3 years. That's a lot of experience and leadership qualities you must have amassed. So what 5 tips do you think you can share with other people who are aspiring entrepreneurs?
Okay, number 1, how do I say this in a very polite way? You hear a lot of unrealistic things, right? That's okay. Like some of those things, those are they become cliches for a reason, right? It means that that's generally how business should work. It does not mean that that's how it's going to work for you, right? So don't be afraid to do things your own way. Worst case scenario, it will fail. That's the worst thing that will happen. You won't die. Worst case scenario, it will fail. So don't be afraid to do things your own way and try to figure out like how this thing was supposed to work out with a touch of you in it, right? You mustn't follow how Bill Gates did his own thing, how this other person did his own thing. Listen to them for motivation, but don't be afraid to do things your own way. Secondly, I think it's important to figure out what you bring to the table. I know the business is your own, and I know it's you that started it and all of that. But don't forget to infuse that part of yourself that others want to see into your business, if that makes sense, right? So if you're starting like a food business and all those kind of things, you know that people are doing it this way, people are doing it that way, people say you should do it like this, people say you should do it like that. Don't be afraid to say what it is about me that people like. Okay, for instance, me in particular, right? I think what it is about me that resonates with people might be how wholesome people think that I am. So I don't bother with how things should be, or I say things as I try to be my most authentic self. right? So when I start a business, I want that business to be authentic. If we're having a problem with this thing, I'm going to say we're having a problem with this thing. If we're having, do you understand? If we're supposed to grow slowly, if we're supposed to stop at some point, if we're supposed to start again, I'll do what I have to do, and I'll bring people along on my journey. Then, what else? Make out time for yourself, right? As much as it's a business, you're also a person, and it's part of your journey. Like, don't take out individuality from it. Make out time for yourself. Be your own person. Don't forget that this is a journey. Don't forget to take your lessons. Don't forget to be a human being. Do you understand? Don't make your life about the business. It's important to show up for the business, but also show up for yourself as a human being. Oh, how you treat people matters. So when you're hiring staff, I think it's important to decide what it is you're giving your staff and what they're giving you back. So people always say, oh, this is how to manage people. This is how to bring out the best in people. This is how to get the best results from people. But at the same time, what are you giving them in return? Do you understand? I think it's important to understand that the way you have goals is the way other people have goals. And even if somebody comes to you without a goal and the person wants to make your life the person's goal, that is your business, the person's goal, I think you should be driven enough to ask the person, what is it that you want for yourself, right? So that they find a way to put you into their goals, and you know the beginning of your relationship with them and the end of your relationship with them, so that there are no surprises. You understand my point? So because every single human being should have their own personal goals. Do you understand? Your own cannot be their own. It's great if it is, and I hope it works for you guys, but it's not likely that they want to give up their lives to help you build your own dream. You understand? So I think it's important to be human in that situation and ask them what they want for themselves. And yeah, I think that's it with dealing with human beings. And finally, what can I say? Well, find something to hold on to. Like God, for me, it's God. So find something to hold on to, because life is complicated, life is complex, life is going to throw different things at you. But if you have something to hold on to, things will work out. Things will work out as they should. That's right. That's how I see life. That's what I believe. That's it.
Very true. Now, in the process of offering value to people, I'm sure the value you've offered to people is what has kept you and motivated you to continue. So has there ever been any exciting time or any time you really did something with good living and then the reaction of people? Can you remember anyone categorically that the reaction of people?
To be honest, I think at every point, like, I get mind-blowing feedback and reaction from people. For instance, when we started in the first week, like, even from my journey, I think you can hear it, like how I was telling you that I became a businesswoman all of a sudden. That was outstanding for me, because I didn't know that people were going to receive it in that way. You get? And then be fighting for who's the 10th person, who ordered yesterday, who didn't order. Do you understand? Then secondly, when I did my launch in Abuja, it was very well received. We wanted 50 people, and they were even going to pay to be at the launch. And we had more than 50 people sign up to be at the launch, right? That was outstanding for me. Then since I moved to Enugu, even though some people, when I looked at like what we're offering, I thought it was expensive and is it going to work for Enugu's crowd and all of that. But each time we go on a break or we're not able to deliver, or even the fact that we don't work on weekends is such a surprise to people. And whenever people see our page, they're like, can you deliver to me for 1 week? Can I order this? Do you understand? Like, people are really interested in these things. And the fact that it's healthy and it's tasty is something they like. To me, yes, I thought it was a good idea. But when, I don't know, you believe in yourself, you know that this thing you did is good, but you didn't know it was this good. Do you understand my point? Yeah. So I think the reaction has been mine. I don't know if other people might say, oh, somebody now did this or some outstanding thing. But for me, even just the way people react to it day to day, you get, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that they would trust it and they would believe in it so much. So yeah, that's it.
And I think those sort of things really get people going. So I think for the final question, we want you to tell us about 5 things about you. I don't know why I like 5. 5 things about you that
I think you should be doing 3. 5 is plenty.
No, I'll share a lot of things about you now. So, like, say 5 things about you. Exclusive that nobody else has heard or knows. Just, yeah. You can reduce it to 3 so you don't have to think.
I can't even.
That moment you suddenly forget about yourself.
Do you understand? You're asking who am I again? Well, one is definitely that I'm a loner. Like, not a loner, but I'm very reserved. People don't know this and people find it hard to believe. Even though I don't know why they find it hard to believe, because even on social media, I'm quite reserved. But anyway, maybe because of MBGN and I don't know. People find it hard to believe, but I'm very reserved. What else? I'm a fighter. I'm a loyalist. If I believe in something or if I love something, that's the end. It must work out, or it must be that thing till the end of time. Even with people, like before I give up on people, it takes forever because I continue. Like I give people the longest rope. You get, and I'm extremely pessimistic about everything, about life, about everything really. Then what else? I'm a pretend hopeless romantic. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so, please expand. Share.
So I'm supposed to be a hopeless romantic. That's how I was created, right?
Okay.
But I changed it by myself because it's too much stress. Even like for when I was young, even as a teenager, I just looked around and saw that this thing is not working out for people. People are getting heartbroken left, right, and center, and it's ending in tears every day. So I switched it. But then I feel like I'm in a place where I'm trying to go back to like who I used to be. I'm trying to discover myself in my most authentic form in every way you get. So I'm trying to go back to who I used to be. And yeah. And I think meeting the right person also helps you. And I think I met the right person. So yeah, I'm happy about that.
The right person is not disclosed to us, but okay, moving on.
Lol. Later, you send me a message. I'll tell you. I'll give you his handle. What else? I love math, which is weird because I studied law.
Okay, that's very surprising. Random. That's exclusive.
I love math.
Wonderful.
I guess so. I can't think of anything, so let's leave it at 4.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, it has been very, very nice having you, and we really hope to do this again. Beautiful story.
Thank you.
We're really glad about how you started and where you are right now, and where the trajectory you have for your brand, Good Living, and we hope that you're going to really achieve these things that you're set out to achieve. And we also hope that this would be a lesson to everybody who is an aspiring entrepreneur or has started something and has not lasted for 3 years that you have lasted. So thank you once again, Muna, for coming and joining us, for honoring our invitation.
Thank you so much.